Having always loved the story of Snow White, I found an opportunity to study her in college. The first time was from an anti-Disney perspective, where I analyzed it for violence and chauvinism and sexual exploitations. Then it was for mythic content and correlations across culture. And finally, it was for the alchemical analysis, which really drew me to the story. I related to her. Perhaps it was her innocence, the trust she placed in all the wrong people, the estrangement she experienced from her mother figure, or the father who did not protect her. I recently read a quote from Sigmund Freud, and he said, "I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection." But I really liked Snow White because it showed me that everything might work out in the end, and I was a dreamer. I saw myself in her journey. In Germany, she's called Snow White. In Italy, Ermelina. In Portugal, the Maiden. In Chile, Blanca Rosa. There are over 50 tellings, but why? Because it's important. Because it's a means for understanding the Maiden's journey. Because it's full of archetypes, reoccurring symbols and patterns of behavior meaningful to the human psyche, such as the orphan, the absent mother, the deceivers, the helpers. Each tale offers a reflection on relationships: man, woman, mother-father, mother-daughter, father-daughter, maiden, stranger, and also a relationship to the self. Each have what I like to call it a container for transformation. A den or a cottage in the forest, a crystal palace, a casket, a deep woods. And each has symbols for transformation. Masks and personas that we all need to try on. A voyage each maiden must embark upon. Trials and errors while learning to overcome misconception. And a royal union, symbolic of embracing the opposites existing in our own soul. There's also the pairing of opposites in each tale. And while this may seem mythical, it can turn into a useful conversation. In narrative therapy, they say to name it and then to explore the relationship between the person and the problem. So if we were to look at abandonment of the child, we could then ask, where is the guidance? Or where could one find guidance? If we were to look at dismemberment, we could say, how does a dismemberment look? Divorce, loss of a child, loss of your finances. And then we could say, how do you envision wholeness? This journey matters. Jour. The words journey and journal are derived from the French word jour, meaning day. And while the original function of a journal was to record births and deaths and the weather, journaling today, as we know, can include personal reflection and feelings and ideas. So the maiden's journey can record her daily life, or it can record a psychological journey of the self, because it then becomes a form of therapy, allowing us to name, explore, evaluate, deconstruct, question, challenge, and possibly create an alternative story. I don't know where this came from. It was in one of my papers, and I feel like maybe I wrote it, or maybe I don't know how long ago I wrote this, but it's important to journal the journey in order to honor the process of change. So a colleague of mine at Pacifica, an author, Maureen Murdoch, researched this journey in her book called The Heroine's Journey, Woman's Quest for Wholeness. It was a response to Joseph Campbell's book on the hero's journey. Do you know about the hero's journey? It's pretty common. I was hearing someone reference Star Wars and how the world's turning into Star Wars. Well, I love Joseph Campbell. But I think about what we're going to hear that he said, and I think maybe that's why the world is having problems, because our myth is a little bit lacking. So Patrice Wynn writes about the heroine's journey. She said, the heroine's journey offers a map of the feminine healing process. Maureen, in her description of this book, says, she writes of herself, Maureen, who was a student of Campbell's work, felt his model did not address the specific psycho-spiritual journey of the contemporary woman. So she developed a model of the feminine journey based on her work with women in therapy and showed it to him in 1983. This is what Campbell said. Women don't need to make the journey. In the whole mythological journey, the woman is there. All she has to do is to realize she's the place that people are trying to get to. But knowing that women were indeed involved in their own psycho-spiritual journey, she developed a model for the heroine's journey, which has become a template for novelists and screenwriters who desire to understand the deep wounding of the feminine on both a personal and a cultural level. And here we see a map of the heroine's journey reproduced from her book. It asks the questions: where is the maiden on her journey? Is she on the road of trials right now, meeting ogres and dragons? And what's next? Finding the boon of success. And I showed my husband this slide, and he said, that's the social work. And it could be many things. This is on my board outside, too, if you want to look at it. So with the use of words such as ogres and dragons, we come back to myth. Seeing ourselves through a mythic lens gains us a rich archetypal perspective, one that shows us the patterns of our own psyches so that we can better know ourselves. With myth, which is what I liked, it freely shows the good, the bad, the tolerated, the refused, the beautiful, and the gruesome. Campbell is known for identifying the four functions of myth. The metaphysical, which is the awakening of consciousness to the sense of awe. The cosmological, providing a relationship between the cosmos and the earth. The sociological function of myth, establishing where we see ourselves in the social realm. And the psychological function, mirroring the rites of passage into critical stages of life. This quote is from Jonathan Young, a psychologist and storyteller who assisted Campbell at seminars and served as a family curator at the Joseph Campbell Archives and Library. He writes, the psychological function was the principal focus of Campbell's scholarship. He credited his women's students at Sarah Lawrence College with making his work accessible. He noted their insistence on hearing how the material from mythological traditions was relevant in their lives. So partly in response to their perseverance, Campbell put great emphasis on how the wisdom literature reflected psychological dynamics. Joseph Campbell was a literature professor at Sarah Lawrence College from 1934 to 1972, for 38 years.